Halloween shirt. I never do anything different with my hair, do I? I just keep it the same. Hey, it's Mel. Today we're going to be talking about the true story of the 2013 film The Conjuring. I have seen this film about 10 times. It's one of my favourite films ever made. The director was James Wan, and the film made its way onto the top 10 scariest horror films of all time. Now, a lot of people don't know that the film was in fact based off a true story of the real Perron family. The Perron family consisted of Carolyn, along with her husband Roger, and their 5 daughters: Andrea, Nancy, April, Christine, and Cindy. They bought a farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, and it was a 200-acre property, enough space for their 5 kids. They purchased this house in 1970. Now, before I get into further details of the Perron family, I'm just going to talk about the film's summary. So obviously the film is about the Perron family who move into a farmhouse, only to soon discover that it is haunted by many spirits. One is an evil entity given the name Bathsheba, and the couple call paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren to their house to help them. The characters of Ed and Lorraine are based off real paranormal investigators that have covered cases that inspired the Conjuring movie series, such as the Amityville Horror, obviously the Perron family, Annabelle doll, and many more. So that is basically the whole summary of the film, and the real Perron family actually moved into their farmhouse in 1971, though they purchased it in 1970. Roger and Carolyn's oldest daughter is Andrea Perron, and she has spoken on the events that occurred in that home. The family ended up staying in this home for 10 years. They would leave the house in June 1980. Ed and Lorraine Warren were married. Lorraine had the ability to see spirits, supposedly, and channel them, whereas Ed was a demonologist who researched demons and knew a lot about them. They were basically like a paranormal power couple in a way. They mainly focused on helping families with haunted or cursed items. They would do cleanses and blessings on a house. They even had a whole room that had items from their cases, such as the Annabelle doll, which currently remains in their occult museum, which is the room located in their home. This room holds many various cursed items. The Warrens are no longer with us. Ed, I believe, passed away in 2006, and Lorraine passed away in April of 2019 as she was asleep. Both of the Warrens died in their home, and since their deaths, the occult museum has remained closed to the public permanently. The Warrens' son-in-law, Tony Spera, I think is now in charge of the occult museum. Supposedly, the occult museum was closed due to a zoning violation. Before we get into the true events that occurred to the real Perron family, I'm going to talk a bit about the film itself. So while the film was being made, Lorraine Warren actually worked as a consultant alongside James Wan and basically helped him to make the film more realistic. Even in one scene in the film, when Carolyn goes to see a lecture made by Ed and Lorraine Warren, Carolyn, after the lecture, asks the Warrens to visit her home in need of help. In this particular scene, we see Lorraine herself sat in one of the seats listening to a lecture made by Ed and Lorraine. The Conjuring was not filmed in the real Perron family home, but a replica was made. The real Perron farmhouse was built in 1736 and was known as the Old Arnold Estate. Now we're going to talk about the strange occurrences that supposedly happened in the home. So when the Perron family moved in, they soon realised that they were not the only ones living there. It was very occupied by many spirits. Doors would shut, lights would flicker, and the Perron children even told their parents that the spirits were watching them play on the porch. Not to mention that on occasions, the younger Perron children would have full-blown conversations with spirits in the house. Not to mention that objects were being moved, among other things, and they lived in the house for 10 years. Now, the reason they stayed there for so long was because at first they didn't feel threatened or scared. Most of the spirits in the home were harmless, they didn't hurt anyone. But soon things changed. Things got violent. Family pictures were being thrown off the walls. The children's beds would levitate, sometimes when the children were in the beds. A foul smell was in the house, not to mention the family was hearing strange noises that they just couldn't explain. Glasses were shattering and things were just escalating. The family no longer saw the spirits as harmless. Something negative was in that home. In the film, a malicious entity by the name of Bathsheba, who was a witch, is first seen on the top of the wardrobe. She is a very terrifying woman. That character, Bathsheba, is actually known to be a real person, but we'll get more into that later. Now, as things escalated in the Perrin family home, a malicious entity who was also named Bathsheba targeted Caroline. This entity would go on to torment, physically harm, and soon possess Caroline. Through investigation and research into the real Perrin family case, it was discovered that Bathsheba's character was actually based off a real woman. Her birth name was Bathsheba Thayer. She was born in 1812 Rhode Island. She married a man in her early 30s by the name of Judson Sherman, and once they were married, Bathsheba's name turned to Bathsheba Sherman. She married in Connecticut on the 10th of March, 1844. Judson and Bathsheba lived on the old Arnold estate, as it was known at that time, and Judson was a farmer on their land. Bathsheba was a good housewife, and she went on to have a son named Herbert, born in March 1849, when Bathsheba was aged 37. This might be a rumour, but I'm unsure. It is possible that Judson and Bathsheba had 3 other children, however none of that has been documented. There's no proof of them having 3 other children. These 3 supposed other children would die before they reached age 7. Bathsheba died in the spring of 1885. There is 2 supposed pictures of Bathsheba. The first one I'm going to show you is of a woman wearing a surgical mask, standing on the old Arnold estate. Now, the reason she is supposedly wearing a mask is because around that time, tuberculosis was killing people left, right, and centre, and there was no cure for it. Doctors didn't have a grasp on it or an understanding of how it worked. The woman wearing the mask is supposedly Bathsheba. If this is Bathsheba and it's true, this would have been one of the very last photos taken of Bathsheba, since she died in the spring of 1885, that same year the picture was taken. If this is a picture of Bathsheba, she would have been in her early 70s. Bathsheba died on the 25th of May, and her husband Judson died 4 years before her. Bathsheba's son Herbert went on to live his own life, have a family of his own, and a wife called Georgiana. Bathsheba's headstone has actually been found. It's been broken in half and vandalised, but this has been proven to be the real Bathsheba that lived and died on the old Arnold estate. Back to Caroline Perrin, she suffered torment and physical abuse from this entity, Bathsheba. This torment and the abuse would go on for years. Caroline claimed that one night she woke up to see Bathsheba lying on top of her, choking her and yelling, "Get out, I'll drive you out with death and gloom." End quote. Caroline described Bathsheba as a scary woman with her neck to one side as if it had been broken. Right before Caroline got physically possessed, Bathsheba stabbed her with a sewing needle, which made sense to this actually being Bathsheba, because when Bathsheba was alive, the locals claimed that she was a witch, and those claims escalated when an infant died while in the care of Bathsheba. An autopsy of sorts was done on the child that died, and it turned out that the child had died from a sewing needle that was put into the back of her skull. Now, the locals claimed that Bathsheba sacrificed this child to Satan himself, and had also done the same over her 3 other supposed children. Bathsheba was investigated for the death of this infant, though all charges against her were dropped. It is speculated or said that Bathsheba hung herself, and that's where the whole hanging woman comes into play in the Conjuring film. However, other sources say that Bathsheba died of paralysis. Bathsheba would bite, stab, and bruise Caroline. When Bathsheba got to the point of possessing Caroline, the family called the Warrens, who came over immediately, did a bunch of cleansings on the house, which only annoyed the spirits further. Now, in the film, the Warrens did an exorcism on Caroline. However, in real life, the Warrens performed a seance, which went horribly wrong and resulted in Roger Perrin kicking the Warrens out of his house. Now, when the Warrens left that day, the family was forced to stay in their home for an additional 7 years, due to them being financially stuck and having nowhere else to go. After 10 years of living in the home, the family finally moved to Georgia. However, it's said that the negative spirits from their old home followed them to Georgia. The new owners of the real Perrin family home are a married couple called Corey and Jennifer Heinzen. They bought the property in 2018 or 2019, I believe. Now, Corey is a ghost hunter. Jennifer and Corey both plan to open the property for visitors and other ghost hunters. They have experienced things in the home like feeling like they're being watched, cold spots, not to mention doors opening and shutting by themselves. Corey cannot stay in the home by himself. He just feels like it's very occupied, but not by anything evil. Now, on the set of the Conjuring film, while it was being made, a lot of things went down. For example, actress Joey King, who plays one of the parent children, experienced bruise marks just appearing all over her body out of nowhere and then suddenly vanishing. She's not sure what the cause of it was and she didn't fall over, and Patrick Wilson told a newspaper online that Joey King had not been doing any stunts during the making of the film. Bear in mind that most child actors, especially at a young age, do not participate in any stunts. Random side note, has nothing to do with the film. Patrick Wilson has admitted to his own house being haunted, and the sounds and laughter of children are heard. I mean, I wouldn't live there, I'd just move out. Actress Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine Warren, told director James Wan that she had been waking up during 3 to 4 a.m. when they started working on the Conjuring film. Vera also experienced seeing 3 claw marks on her computer screen when talking of making the film and when Vera was up for the role of Lorraine Warren. And then one day after filming The Conjuring, Vera woke up one night with 3 claw mark bruises across her thigh. They looked like they'd been done with someone who had long fingernails. Now, Vera didn't have long fingernails, though it definitely freaked her out, and the claw marks soon disappeared. If you're not following this, Vera saw 3 claw marks on her computer screen, and then fast forward a couple of days, there's 3 claw marks on her thigh. I'd just leave. I wouldn't even be up for the role of Lorraine Warren. If I was Vera and I woke up, saw 3 claw marks on my thigh, I'm not working on this film, I'm gone. When the real Perrin family children came to visit the set of The Conjuring, one of them said to screenwriter Chad Hayes, quote, "Something really bad is going to happen out here today," end quote. That same day, the real Carolyn Perrin ended up falling down a flight of stairs and breaking her hip. Random side note, but the guy who plays the witch Bathsheba in The Conjuring also plays the red demon face in Insidious. His name is Joseph Bishara. But anyway, that is the true story of the Perrin family that inspired the film The Conjuring. Do I believe the Perrin family? Yes. Now, do I believe in the paranormal? Yes, because of what I've experienced, but I was a skeptic at first, so I'm not even going to judge anyone who's skeptical of this story, because I get it. I still try and remain skeptical. I hope that you liked this video, found it creepy. Thank you for being a part of Creep Week by watching this video, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye.